So I just began recording now. And hello again to everyone. And thank you so much for taking the time to join us today for our group on challenging negative thoughts. We're very happy to be here with you. So my name is Catherine, and I'm a behavioral health advocate. And so I provide mental health and wellness resources and services to everyone who's involved with the Career Link. And I'm joined by my fellow behavioral health advocates, Shay and Shayna. Would you like to introduce yourselves?
Sure. Thanks, Catherine. Welcome, everyone. My name's Shay. I'm a behavioral health advocate in Luzerne and Schuylkill counties, and I work in a real reentry program with young adults.
Great.
Hi,
Thank
everyone.
you.
My name is Shayna. I am a BHA, specifically working for Luzerne as well as Lackawanna counties. And nice to meet all of you. And I'm actually in the EARN program, BHA for the EARN program.
All right, so the three of us will be our main facilitators today, but later on in the group, we may be joined by our partner from Studio B. Studio B is a wellness platform that you all have free access to since you're involved with the Career Link. So if that person comes on, her name is Mary, and she'll be walking us through the platform. And if she's not able to make it on, then we will tell you a little bit more about Studio B ourselves in just a little bit. But yeah, so today our group, as you know, the topic is challenging negative thoughts. And, I want to start by saying that the point of this group is not to eliminate negative thinking altogether. Negative thoughts are very normal, they're very natural, and they will come up for all of us from time to time. And sometimes, it may actually make sense to think about things from a little bit more of a negative lens, maybe depending on the situation. So it's not that we want to eliminate negative thoughts altogether. The goal instead is to recognize when negative thoughts become persistent, when they become problematic, and lead us to view things inaccurately, and to then find ways to address them so that we're thinking in a more healthy and accurate way. And by doing that, it can really help drastically with our outlook on ourselves, our outlook on the world around us, and just improve our overall well-being. And so that's what we're going to be talking about today. So the most common problematic type of negative thought pattern is called a cognitive distortion. And cognitive distortions are thought patterns that cause people to view reality in inaccurate, usually negative ways. And they can make us feel, feelings of failure, inadequacy. They can make us feel anxious, and many other negative outcomes as well. And so to start this whole process of challenging our negative thinking, challenging our cognitive distortions, we first want to learn how to recognize them when they come up in ourselves. So on this slide here, we have 4 examples of common negative thought patterns that you might experience. So the first one here is called black and white thinking. And that's where we think things are entirely one way or another. There's no in between. So for example, if you go into an interview and you do pretty well, you answer, all the questions clearly, you're qualified for the position. But say you were nervous and maybe you forgot to mention one small detail that you hope to include. You might tell yourself that interview was a failure because it wasn't perfect. So it's all or nothing. It's a failure because it wasn't perfect. There's no in between. Another common negative thought pattern is this personalization one here. So this is where you blame yourself for things that were not your fault. So for example, if your child fails a test in school and you were to blame yourself and tell yourself that it's because you're a bad parent that they failed that test, that would be personalization. So you're blaming yourself for your child's bad grade rather than, viewing it accurately and trying to identify maybe why they're struggling and how you can help. Another one that might resonate with you is catastrophizing. So this is thinking things are going to be way worse than they really are. So for example, you might think, if my partner leaves me, then I'll be alone forever and I'll never meet anyone again. So, really thinking things will become catastrophic when that's not really realistic and not really likely. And it's, blowing things out of proportion based on the actual information of the situation. And then the last type of negative thinking pattern that we'll touch on here is filtering. So this is when we only pay attention to the negative. So going back to that interview example, you might have done super well in the interview, nailed all of the questions. But if you said maybe one thing a little differently than you would have hoped, that's all you can focus on. That's all you can think about versus the many positive things that you did and the many positive things that occurred. So again, these are just some examples of cognitive distortions that you may or may not experience. There's a lot of other ones out there. And so if this is something that, you're interested in, you can just do a quick Google search of, cognitive distortions, negative thinking patterns, and learn about some others that are, commonly come up for people to help you, begin gaining awareness when these thought patterns start to creep up. So, what you need to address. And I'll pass it over to Shayna next.
Hey, everybody. So thank you so much, Catherine, for going through the examples as far as like the different types of distorted thinking patterns that we could be entering into our psyche. I'm just going to go a little bit further with that to kind of talk about like how our thoughts influence our emotions and how our emotions influence our behavior. So I'm not sure how many of us were here for the last group when we talked about the self-confidence and how it works. One of the domino effects that we discussed was our internal critic and how that reduces our confidence in ourselves. And that's a large part of like negative thinking patterns is what we're telling ourselves. So we did give some like great tips in that video in order to help you as far as reducing that or increasing your self-confidence and also to show how you can combat like negative thinking patterns by switching up negative self-talk with positive self-talk or something that's more neutral. So I basically wanted to reiterate all of that because it's a really important concept, again, on how your thoughts influence your emotions and how your emotions are going to influence your actions or inactions in a particular situation. So on our self-care journey, it's important to keep that basically in mind. So not challenging your negative thoughts can basically lead to different things like emotional upset, the physical problems, behavioral concerns, as well as socialization, which is depicted on this slide. And I think they're pretty much self-explanatory, but emotional upset, like increased sadness or anxiety, behavioral concerns can be like addiction, avoidance, sleep disturbances, eating habits, physical problems. Usually that's stress-related issues, stomach issues, because a lot of times our anxiety is held in our stomach area. And then also like socialization concerns, like when you're socializing with a coworker, are you irritable? Do you have like a lack of patience? Are you withdrawing from these like social situations? And Catherine, if you can take me to the next slide. So like if you are like experiencing these adverse effects due to the negative thinking patterns that we may have, like also you want to take into consideration and think about like how is that translating to the way that we present ourselves in our professional lives or in our work environment. A lot of times the majority of the thinking patterns and the things that we think about ourselves is a lot of times the negative thinking patterns are things that we think about ourselves, as well as the thoughts that we have about other people's perceptions about us. However, negative thoughts can also be like external things that happened, and that's what we see on the surface, but a lot of times everything is going to point back to you and your inner self. So some things that I wanted to mention is like unrealistic expectations, right, in the workplace. So to give an example of that, like you're a hard worker, you go up for a promotion, you've been doing everything that you can for this job for the last 2 years, but then boom, someone else gets that promotion instead of you. And you can have like different thoughts surrounding that particular situation. Like if you're having a specific expectation of the situation, then one of your thoughts could possibly be like, I should have gotten that promotion. That person doesn't even work as hard as me, that, or my boss just doesn't like me. Or you can think of B, which is this person does work, just as hard as me, or maybe my boss has a different position in mind that's more aligned with my strengths, right? And depending on how you think about that particular situation and what your expectations are, it could actually lead you to the next thing, which is a change as far as like your productivity or your motivation. So if you had like the first thought, and that could possibly unconsciously make you sabotage yourself as far as like different opportunities or different promotions are concerned. Like if you're thinking my boss doesn't like me and I should have gotten this promotion over someone else. But if you're thinking more on the other realm, then maybe other people can look at, so if you're thinking more so like, maybe there's another position for me, or that person works just as hard as me. So maybe it didn't affect your productivity or your motivation because you're having more positive thought patterns about that particular situation. And then other people are going to see that as well. So, maybe you'll get that next raise or get that next promotion because they can see that you've handled a particular letdown or upset. You handled it in a good manner. So that leads me also to like the disappointment. Another thing in the workforce is like disappointment with certain changes, right? I think a lot of us kind of fall victim to like, I don't like change, or I'm not good with change. And when you have those particular thoughts and a specific change does happen in the workplace, a lot of times we can go to like agitation because you're thinking like, well, things were working perfectly fine before, like why did they make that change? But then if we think about it and challenge that particular negative thinking pattern, and we think like, okay, businesses change on a consistent basis. And in order to have a successful business, you do want that business to make changes. You do want that business to evolve, just like human beings make changes and also evolve. So like, kind of thinking in a way like, would those different thought patterns change the way you felt about something? And then also that feeling, is it going to have a specific behavioral change within yourself as well? And then the final thing that I wanted to touch on is like the socialization aspect of negative thought patterns in the workforce, right? So like I said before, a lot of our negative thinking patterns is based on us or based on what we perceive other people's opinions of us are, right? So like, and then we talk about avoidance. So if I think that no one likes me at work, or I think that I'm not that great at my job, then one thing that could basically trigger a behavior such as like avoidance. So maybe I'm not interacting with other employees the way that I should, or I'm not being a part of like certain events that maybe I would be good at. So like the lack of socialization because of these things can actually lead to missed opportunities, missed learning experiences when we're in our professional lives. And with that, I will pass it over to Miss Shay so she can give us some great information on how to combat these negative thinking patterns.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you guys so much. So I feel like we've kind of fleshed out like what is negative thinking, and like Shayna talked about how that could be problematic. So I'm here to talk about like coping skills and ways that we can like, kind of offer a solution or try to minimize, like as Catherine said, we're not going to get rid of them altogether, but raising awareness to them, we can, find ways to combat them. So there's going to be 5 tips. And I would love to get some participation in the chat. If we want to, as I go through, start thinking about like, how can I use some of these? Some of these might work better for me than others. but I'm going to go through and explain a little bit, and then I'm going to challenge you when we get through all 5 of them to give me an example of one thing that like you might, do a little differently. So the first thing we could do is like, again, gain awareness. What are the things that trigger my ants, my automatic negative thoughts? For me, I'm going to give an example for me for each one of these, and feel free to go ahead and, if you want to give an example for each one as we go, no worries. But for me, one thing is if I'm feeling overwhelmed, or I'm feeling like this is something out of my comfort zone, that's when I tend to have a lot more negative self-talk. So if it's not something that I'm generally like, I'm good at this, I could do it. If it's like something that I'm trying differently, I might find myself being more critical. Also, like if I'm just not in a good mindset that day, if I've had, maybe an argument with somebody, it might lead me to going down a more negative path. And then also like number 2, I have to understand my thought process. So when Catherine was going over those different ways that we can have negative thoughts, am I a black and white thinker? Do I typically go to catastrophizing things? Like knowing what your go-to is, not just what triggers me, but also like, what is the pattern that I'm seeing? I tend to be a black and white thinker. I tend to be a personalizer. If I see somebody, might have a facial expression or tone or something, I might read into that situation and make it about me, even though it has nothing to do about me. And even though like we're trained in these things, this still happens to us, right? Behavioral health advocates can still have these things happen to us. So black and white thinking is one of those that I think, it's that all or nothing. So for me, one way I can combat that is like asking, what's the in-between? Like, what's the gray area? It doesn't have to be an either or an or. I don't have to be, all kind or all mean. There can be something in the middle. I don't have to succeed at everything to be successful. And I don't have to make, one mistake to be considered a total failure. Like there's a spectrum. There's a spectrum for my thoughts. And if I can catch myself being polarized, either or, that's a good idea for me to tune into that. And then the next step after tuning into it is like acknowledging and labeling. Okay, well, I feel insecure versus talking down to myself or making that black or white, like, oh, this is making me feel, like this is drawing into something on a deeper level, right? The way that negative thought is affecting me, it's bringing up anger, resentment, abandonment, whatever. It's bringing up a different feeling that maybe on the surface, it's easier to just apply the negative thought to me, but really there's like maybe a bigger, feeling going on there. Then we're going to go to the next slide, please. And this is one of my favorites, practicing gratitude. So I'm going to end with practicing gratitude because I feel like that one is one that if we get creative, we can do this. We can really combat negative thoughts in the moment. But like developing a plan, mindfulness, asking those questions, tuning into all those things that Shayna had laid out for us, reframing those thoughts, and then also like tuning in with a professional, whether that is a support group or, using the BHAs that are here or seeking counseling. You can really like examine a lot of your ANTs, your automatic thoughts, right? And one thing that I like to do is practice gratitude. So this is where I'll challenge you. Gratitude seems to be something that we all understand the concept. We're familiar with how to do that. And I want to give you an example of like, if I'm having a negative thought, how I can use the gratitude in a different way to challenge it. So I'll give you an example. There might be some days that I have, like a bad body image, right? Like that's a day I'm just like, I don't feel good in anything I'm wearing, or I don't like how something looks. And when I can tune into and catch myself go, ooh, that was kind of a negative thought. I don't know if I'd say that to a person. Why am I saying it to me? And that's leaning into, this thinking of, that's not how I want something to look or be. But Shayna, yes. So I can use gratitude to, instead of criticizing my body for what I don't like about it or what I think it should be doing, I can show gratitude for all the things it is, all the things it does. I can very easily find something negative in every situation, including how I think, how I speak. I can be very critical, but I can also find things that are wonderful in that, right? On that spectrum of black and white. There may be some things I'm not pleased with in that job interview, but here's the things that I did well. Here's what I'm grateful for. I showed up, I was prepared. I, was able to maintain, to be able to present myself in this way. No, I may not have gotten all the things perfect in that way, but I am so grateful for all the things that did go well, for all the things that I did do well. So I would challenge you guys also to like throw out there, like, what are some negative thoughts or some shoulds, some black and whites that like come up frequently for you? And then like, what's something that you might be able to do differently? So Shayna has posted gratitude of me having the interview experience and what I learned about myself during that interview. Yeah. So like thinking errors, they happen. It's what I lean into more. The other thing is like when we criticize ourselves for like applying labels, you're too sensitive, or you're too this, or you're too that. Sometimes like there's a negative quality assigned to like how we talk about ourselves. You're too bossy, you're too opinionated. There's again on the spectrum, there's a strength to every quality. There's a strength and a weakness. If we go too far to the left, too far to the right, that black or white, right? Anything can be considered a criticism, but it can also be considered a strength. So that's another way I practice gratitude is, oh, that person is, I am overly sensitive, or I might be leaning into that sensitivity. But you know what else? The strength in that is that I'm aware of other people's feelings. I'm able to be a good parent. I'm able to be a good employee. I'm able to use that compassion for others in a positive way. So we just kind of have to tune into, is that true? Is it an either or? Could I be sensitive, but also be, have boundaries? Could I, have mistakes, but also have confidence in other areas? And then like, I also wanted to just remind you about that, keep in mind, thinking errors are learned, which means they can be unlearned. We get messages from our upbringing, we get messages from media, from society, we get messages from all different places that lead us to think these things about ourselves. And so because they're learned, they can be unlearned. And healthy thought patterns are ways that we can empower ourselves in our personal lives, but also like in our professional lives. And then I also just want to end with, in number 5, practicing mindfulness. One way we can do this is literally just tuning into being mindful about the thought and questioning it. Did anybody else want to throw anything else in there about gratitude? Gratitude, black and white thinking, catastrophizing. Okay. And then I'm not sure if Mary is with us.
Yes, I don't think that Mary is here. However, I would be very happy to step in and lead us in a guided meditation to help us with challenging our negative thoughts. So I hope everyone is comfortable and ready to start a meditation to assist with this topic. So I'd like you to begin by sitting up tall in a comfortable place, assuming that's where you are now, and breathe slowly in through your nose and breathe slowly out through your mouth, just letting your energy settle in by paying attention to only your breath. Soften your shoulders and soften your legs, and pay attention to your breath with a sense of compassion for yourself. So breathe in and breathe out, feeling the gentle rise and fall of your body, and let yourself just drop into a state of being rather than doing. So right here, right now, just being present with your breath. And as you watch your breath, of course, thoughts will still come into your mind. Thoughts will still arise. Our mind has a lot of energy. Our mind is always at play. And today we're choosing to notice those thoughts and watch them as if they're at a distance. So you are not your thoughts. You're just a witness to your thoughts. And it can help to visualize your thoughts as if they're like clouds floating through the sky or bubbles. So a thought arises, it floats up through the sky and into our awareness. And then if it's left alone, it will also float on by and just dissipate and move from our attention. So stay anchored to your breath as you play with awareness of this process, just being present with your breath, but also being aware of the thought clouds or the thought bubbles that arise and just float on by. So your thoughts are like clouds, they're like bubbles. Understand that your thoughts are not solid, they're not fixed. They take shape and then they can break apart. They can continuously change, just being blown by with the wind. They can come and go. So breathe in and breathe out, staying aware of your breath. And practice lovingly allowing your thoughts to shift and change and flow. Nothing to fight against, nothing to stop. Love your thoughts, and at the same time, just learn to let them go, and remaining present right here and right now with your breath. Breathe in, breathe out. Remember that you are not your thoughts, but you're just the witness to your thoughts. So look upon each of your thoughts with curiosity or awe, but again and again, anchor back with your breath, being aware of it, being present with it. Your mind is energy and it's always moving, but it's up to you to choose which type of energy you'd like to invite in and which type of energy you'd simply like to let go and float on by like clouds in the sky, breathing in and breathing out, having very even breath, steadiness, and being peaceful and at ease. And when you're ready, if you closed your eyes, you can go ahead and open your eyes back up and rejoin us. So I hope.
Catherine, I just wanted to say that I really liked that that meditation about the clouds, like about thinking about our thoughts as clouds. That was really great. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I really love that visual. Sometimes it's helpful to have like an image in your mind. And again, remembering that your thoughts are not solid, they're not facts, they're not set in stone, and we can choose to acknowledge them, or we could choose to just let them pass us by like those clouds in the sky. So that's an image that I really love. Oh, and it looks like we might be in for a perfect timing. Mary from Studio B just joined us here. And Mary, hello, welcome.
Hi, everybody.
Thanks for being with us.
Yeah, sorry I came in late.
No worries at all. Mary, I did just actually lead us in a guided meditation.
Oh my gosh,
So I
wonderful.
was wondering if there was anything, final that you wanted to share as a takeaway from the guided meditation that you had prepared. And
Mhm.
also if you would be willing to speak to us just for a minute or two about what Studio B is for our users.
Yeah, if you don't mind me asking, what was the meditation based on? Was it the breath? Yeah.
Yes, so we talked about challenging negative thoughts. That's, the topic of our group today. And so we focused on our thoughts being like clouds in the sky or like bubbles just floating on right past us. But, if you again have anything, to add or maybe another way to look at it, some other type of breath work that you would suggest, we would love to hear from you.
Sure. Thank you so much. And I love that you did the meditation. This is how we do it. We go throughout our day, and as it arises, we meet ourselves in the best way we can. So I love that visual image of the thought bubble, because if we think about like those ellipses, those three dots we see when we're texting, and also we all kind of have like that text bubble that we see all day long, we can really think about um, them like clouds, like they come and go. As we know, the messages move on throughout the day. It gets buried. Whatever we sent at the beginning to the person at the end of the day, it's probably not even seen anymore. So it's kind of how our mind works at times. Of course, we can get stuck, especially when we're frustrated or anxious. But it's really good to remember that it will go, but it's okay to acknowledge what is happening. And you can label it. You can put in that little text bubble, worrying or planning or whatever it is. And acknowledging what's going on is a really great way to check back in then with the breath. And as we know, the breath, if we're anxious or worried, gets a little short. When we can, we know what anxiety and panic attacks are. So when we're tuning into our breath and really deepening the breath, like we can just do this together right now. We can all take a deep inhale through our nose and sigh out the exhale. We'll do it again. Deep inhale through the nose. Sighing out our exhale. Just in doing those two very nice, deep, deliberate breaths, we're regulating our nervous system. We're reminding ourselves, oh yeah, okay, I can check in. So this is a great way to tune in and support ourselves. And that takes about 3-4 seconds, right? It's a great tune in. So I can, if you don't mind, I can share the screen and show the page for what it would look like for you. Just let me know how much time you'd like me to take on the.
Yeah, that sounds wonderful, Mary. Thank you. A couple minutes, 5 minutes, 5-7
Yeah.
minutes would be wonderful. I'm making you the host now.
Wonderful, thank you. Okay, let me take you to Studio B. And this is what it looks like when we come in on the EDSI landing page. So this is what you'll see if you're on the company page. And I'll take you to what it looks like for your own personal page. On all the pages, we have banners up here. Basically, it's the themes for the month and also whatever company we're working with, whatever internally is needed for them. And if you click on these things here, it'll take you straight to whatever video is there, on-demand classes. Then our live calendar lives over here on the left here. We see at, this is live now because it started at noon Eastern time. And then there's one at 10. So we have 10-minute stretch breaks all weekdays throughout the days. This is a great way. You can sit at your desk and just come in and do a 10-minute stretch break. It's awesome. It's one of my favorite classes to teach because it reminds me to gently move my body, and I'm seated and I'm at my desk. So there's different types of classes you can take. This is our live calendar. And then we have all these playlists. If you're new, there's different ways to go into the practice. How to use our landing page. As you can see on the bottom is the time the video takes. So if you don't have a lot of time, that 3-minute might be where you need to land. So each playlist has opportunities. You can go through them and look at the different on-demand content available. Somebody just entered. Let me just mute everybody's. Welcome, whoever.
Not up there.
Sorry, guys.
I might have
Let me stop sharing for a minute. And then I can mute the participants. Okay. All right. If I mute anyone important, I'm sorry. Okay. Just go back to the page real quickly. Welcome, whoever joined. Okay, so the playlists are at top. They just have things that we find that people find challenging or places they want to explore. Conscious listening, more active listening, meeting stress, need that every day. Mindful eating, soothing aches and pains. That's kind of where I live with all my teaching. I have a back disability, so this is where I teach from a lot. Sleep support, we all have trouble sleeping. And then this is the teachers assigned to this particular corporation. And then there's different playlists here. So when you go to your page, this is what it would look like here, sorry. this is what your personal page would be like. You can add favorite teachers. I'm sure I'll be one of them. I'm kidding. Whoever you want to add lives up there. And then you can scroll through and choose by teacher. We all have different things that we specialize in. For me, I teach mindfulness-based stress reduction. And then you'll go in and you can choose any of these different types of practices. That one has one practice, that one has three. And then normally you wouldn't see that, but that's my profile because I'm the teacher. Or else you could check in with Bree, see what she's doing. All the teachers have different specialties. You can search at the top here. Let's say you want to look for yoga, stress, and then that will pop up with all the stress related materials. So we try to keep it as user friendly as usual. We love feedback. We're a tech startup. We love to explore what's helpful. And if there's something you really love, we always like to explore more practices too. So the teachers are really amazing. So I'm going to stop sharing and I'll look at the chat real quickly. Yeah, I'm going to, at the end, I'll take everyone's wonderful Shay, thank you, information that would like to register, and I'll send you out a welcome email of how to access the platform. So I'll stop sharing. If there's any questions too, I'll keep my eye on the chat and respond to them if that's okay. But I really appreciate the practice that you led. I'm bummed I missed it. I'll have to listen to the recording, and B, just sharing time with you. And please, you can directly message me on the platform. My name's Mary. I'm the only Mary there. So my name's Mary, and you can, if you have any questions that you don't feel comfortable asking here, you can email me. I'll put my email in the chat, and also just send me a direct message on the platform.
Thank
Yeah,
you so much,
you.
Mary, for walking us through that. Yeah, Studio B is an amazing platform. And like we've been saying in the chat that, you have access to it for free since you're involved with the career link. So please take advantage of it. There's something on there for everyone. I see a couple people sending their emails in the chat. We'll make sure that you get signed up. And Mary, if you wouldn't mind just passing it back over to me as the host so I can reshare my screen to wrap us up.
Thanks for letting me do that.
Thanks for coming, Mary. You unawarely, you touched on so many of the things that we did. Like you talked about naming your feelings, like you were spot on with the topic. So thank you. Yeah,
thank you. No, I honestly, it lives alive in me every day too. So like, it's so familiar. So I usually just talk from what's here. It's work, it's family, it's, so yeah, thank you all.
Yeah, so our next steps that we'd encourage you to take as, some concrete takeaways from our time together today. One, absolutely register for Studio B. We highly encourage that. And two, the behavioral health advocates create a wellness to work newsletter with some of our partners in the career link, where we send out a newsletter every month on different mental health and wellness topics. So if you're already subscribed, you would have seen that this month's topic was challenging negative thoughts, as the group is about, and next month's topic will be about mindfulness. So we would love to have you subscribe to the newsletter and then join us again for a corresponding group next month on the same topic. And to subscribe for the newsletter, you just simply go to the career link website, and there's a place where you can subscribe yourself and enter in your email address. And Shay or Shayna, actually, if one of you wouldn't mind just sending that in the chat, the exact link for people to subscribe to the newsletter, so you could just click on it right from there. That would be very helpful. So yes, please register for Studio B. Please subscribe to our Wellness to Work newsletter to keep information like this coming. And so to wrap us up, we do have a little bit of an activity with an exciting free giveaway opportunity. We have the self-love workbook, which is a wonderful workbook. There's a lot of great information in there and great exercises that you can follow along to help boost your self-esteem and help you learn how to recognize your worth and find genuine happiness, as you see on the image of the cover there. So we are going to be giving away 6 free self-love workbooks to our lucky participants who win today. And so for the activity, if you'd like to enter for a chance to win, we would love it if you could respond to these 2 prompts here on the screen. So we'll start with the first one. Please name one type of negative thinking pattern. So we talked about a couple of common types of negative thinking patterns today, and the first 3 people to respond correctly to that that question there will receive a free self-love workbook. Okay, so I see we have black and white thinking, but all right. So our first 3 winners, I'm whoever has the name S. Cooney, please tell us your full name and email address in the chat. So we can properly acknowledge you on your win. So S. Cooney is our first winner, Natasha Decker is our second winner, and Allison Simmons is our third winner. Wonderful. Congratulations to the 3 of you. Okay, so you are the 3 winners for the first prompt. Now get ready for the second prompt if you'd like to enter for your second chance to win here. The second prompt is name one of the 5 tips for challenging negative thoughts. So we talked about a few different ones. Tell us just one of them that resonated with you. Okay, so I see Guillermina. I hope that I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Knowing your triggers. Okay. Carrie said thinking positively. And then we also have Zakai and Adrian. I'm not sure if it's 2 separate people joining, but only 1 book to give away. You could share it if there are 2 of you. Yes, so those are our 3 winners for the second prompt: Guillermina, Zakai, and Carrie. For our first group and for our second group, I mean, and for our first group, we had, let's see, Selena, we had Natasha Decker, and we had Allison Simmons. So congratulations to our 6 winners. We will continue to do giveaways at our monthly groups. So we would love for you to come back and join us again next month for a chance to win if you did not this time. For those who were our winners, our 6 winners who I called out your name there, Shayna Holmes, our wonderful Shayna Holmes, will be the person to reach out to coordinate to pick up your books. So Shayna's email address is there on the screen. Shayna, if you want to type it in the chat as well. If you were one of our lucky winners today, please reach out to Shayna and we can figure out a time for you to come pick up your book, or perhaps we can send it to you too, depending on what works out. But the book is full of lots of really good tips, really interesting exercises for you to follow along with. And I think you'll find it to be super helpful and insightful for enhancing your self-love. So congratulations again to our winners, and thank you for playing. Hope you join us again next time. And I see Jerry asked, do we have an ebook to download? Unfortunately, we do not. It's just this physical books for now. But if you didn't win and you're really interested in the book, we'll definitely encourage you to Google search it and maybe consider purchasing on your own. Or again, we'd love to have you join with us next month for another chance to win.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. That was a really fun surprise to be able to win books. And I was impressed that people were real quick with that chat too. So congratulations. We would love to say thank you. And if anybody has any last minute comments or questions, but as Catherine said, this will be up on our resource library to view again.
just wanted to say thank you all ladies for such a great work. It's a wonderful workshop. I look forward to seeing you guys next time. This is Allison Simmons.
Thank you, Allison. It's wonderful to have you here with us and congratulations on your win. We'll stick around for another minute or two in case anyone has questions. And if not, we will see you next month.